Inside Sim Racing is brought to you in part by AffordableTrophies.com, the leader in fantasy sports awards, PitPassDiecast.com, customized racing collectibles and hard-to-find items, SRN Race Servers, the most dependable, most stable, and most reliable race servers on the planet, and by RaceSimCentral.com, web hosting solutions, forums, news, and a whole lot more. Communications provided by Teamspeak.org, the Team Play communications engine. This is an SRN TV production.
AffordableTrophies.com has specialized in fantasy sport awards since 1996, providing many fantasy leagues with awards for that special occasion. Sure, cash awards are nice, but a trophy or plaque lasts a lifetime. We even provide awards for youth groups and have dedicated an entire section of our site and market to young athletes. Baseball, football, NASCAR, basketball, even that special last place finisher gag gift. At Affordable, we pride ourselves in customer satisfaction. So if you're looking for that special award for that special champion, get on over to AffordableTrophies.com, where quality and service are number one. In 2002, a man had a dream of die-cast collecting. Now he shares his passion with the World Wide Web. That's PitPassDiecast.com. Need a vintage Dale Earnhardt modified? How about an East Coast chopper? Or even a custom collector's hood? It's all here and much, much more. Check the track of the week's weather, the current point standings. Pit Pass Diecast offers free shipping inside the continental U.S. If you're looking for the entire package, it's all here. So check out PitPassDiecast.com, where if you don't have a pit pass, you're stuck in the stands.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our first ever broadcast of the Inside Sim Racing Video Magazine. I'll be your host, Joe Ball. I've got alongside me on my right from Charlotte, North Carolina studios, Scott Fairman, out on the West Coast, representing the West Coast from the Mariposa, California. We've got Steve Valdez joining us here on this broadcast. A lot of great things here, covering the globe for sim racing news. Want to welcome everybody to our first broadcast, and I hope you enjoy the show. Hopefully you'll come back in 2 weeks when we'll air our second Inside Sim Racing Video Magazine. Right now I want to kick it over to our West Coast partner out there, Steve Valdez. Welcome to the show, Steve. This has got to be unusual for you. You're not a race owner. You're here as part of the broadcast. How you feel about that, Steve?
Thank you, Joe. Just really great to be up here, and boy, you guys have it nice in a nice air-conditioned booth, and here in the West Coast studios, it's very, very nice right now. It's a pleasure to be here. We have a lot of stuff to bring up on the show today. How about you, Scott?
Just tickled to death to be here, Steve, and as Joe said, we're going to cover a lot of news. We're going to cover a lot of leagues in the coming months and hopefully years, as long as our wives and children and girlfriends will allow us to be on the air. But nonetheless, if we're not covering your league this week, don't look behind you, because we may be covering your league or series or division next week. As
Scott, and first of all, I want to clarify that to everybody out there in the audience. Scott does not have a girlfriend or a wife. He's just pretending that always. That's the nice thing about being on TV, a lot of bells and whistles. But, yes, we want to cover all the teams, all the leagues, the sim news from everywhere, the developments, the new things going on in all sim racing, not just NASCAR 2003. We want to tell the untold stories. And, Scott, we've talked about this before. There's a lot of stories out there. You can go to any website, which there's tons of them, and find stats and statistics, find out who's a fast driver in each league, but you don't find the untold stories, and that's going to be one of our jewels here at Inside Sim Racing, is bringing these untold stories to the forefront, Scott.
Yeah, Joe, and you know what? Even the sites that do have this pertinent information dealing with drivers, teams, leagues, associations, whatever, it's usually buried somewhere in the Internet, and the only people that see it are the people that are affiliated with it. The people outside those zones, outside those sectors, don't have an opportunity to have knowledge of that information, and that's what we're going to do here at Inside Sim Racing. With everyone's help, of course, we can't gather all the information ourselves. We will rely on the community to give us a lot of this information, but you know, we're out there digging it up. We're trying to find the behind-the-scenes stories, the story under the rock, so to speak, and bring it to the masses because, you know what, if something is important enough for a league to have it up or for a driver to feel compelled to pass along that information, well, I think everyone else deserves to hear about that. Don't you think, Steve?
Absolutely. Some of the stories out there are heartbreaking, uplifting, and inspiring. Later in the show, we'll have a particularly heartbreaking story about an inspiring driver. So stay tuned for later in the show to hear that.
And Scott, before I kick it back over to you, I want to say hello to guys like Rod Flagg, Primo Speed. He'll be out there. He'll be coming in. We got live interviews lined up. We got some special segments that we're going to do tonight. We got more special segments that we've got just coming down the road and upcoming shows that we have here at Inside Sim Racing. So keep those emails coming to us, ladies and gentlemen. We want to get your stories out there. We want everybody to know the behind-the-scenes stories that we have in our small world of sim racing. It is so small. It seems like it's huge, but every time I turn around, Scott, we've been in this for so long. We run into people we haven't seen forever, just like one of our special guests here tonight, Rod Flagg. When you can go a long time not see somebody and say, wow, it's been a long time, you know you've been around a long time.
And that's coming from a man that can burp his first and last name without missing a beat, Mr. Just Smoky Joe Bob. But you're exactly right, Joe. You know, we've been there and done that. We're ready to do it and do it again. So so much information. And for the people out there viewing here today, I want to pass along to their friends and companions in the sim racing world and outside the sim racing world. If you have news, send it to Inside Sim Racing at SimRacingNetwork.com and get us that information, because
I think we made it easier for them. I think it's just ISR at SimRacing.com or SimRacingNetwork.com, excuse me. So now you got me confused.
Well, I'll tell you what, send it to anything you want at SimRacingNetwork.com and we'll get it one way or another. But send us that news. If you're going to send files or video clips or anything like that, drop us a line first so that we can be expecting it so we can get you to put it into the right media format. But nonetheless, we're relying on you, the viewing audience, the racers, the league admins, the owners, the teammates, the team members, what have you, the viewers, to get us a lot of this information so we can bring it to the masses here with this great medium opportunity that we have with the Inside Sim Racing. And now let's head on over to the breaking news segments right now. And Joe had called up with a big story that took place this last Sunday. Let's check in with Joe Baugh.
From Inside Sim Racing, this is News Update. NASCAR star and sim racing legend Dale Earnhardt Jr. was involved with a fiery crash in Sonoma, California early Sunday morning. It's been reported that only minor injuries and minor burns were sustained in the crash. It seems that Dale Earnhardt Jr. was practicing for Sunday morning's America's Grand Prix of Sonoma out in Finion Raceway in Sonoma, California. From Sonoma, California, here's some footage. Check out the yellow car, which Dale Earnhardt Jr. is driving. Jr. was scheduled to make a solo appearance in the Sports Car Series during his off weekend on the NASCAR Nextel Cup schedule, while sharing a GTS class factory Corvette with renowned road course warrior Boris Said. Earnhardt was apparently dazed in the impact, but as you can see, he immediately started to get himself out of the car into safety. All the flagging crews would bring the session to a halt to allow safe passage for the younger Earnhardt.
And Joe, Dale Earnhardt Jr., avid sim racer, spends a lot of time behind the wheel of a simulated stock car and race truck, racing notables as Dan Denaire, Kevin King, TJ Majors, Martin Truex Jr., Bob Bryant, just to name a few. Tough to see him get in an incident like this, though. Glad to see him walk away with minor cuts, bruises, and burns. He'll be back behind the wheel before too long.
As you watch Earnhardt Jr. being airlifted to University of California, the University Hospital. Inside Sim Racing, this is Joe Ball reporting.
I was at that race in Finon for the Cup race and didn't have an opportunity to go back there to watch this. That particular turn there is a very high-speed turn, considering down the back straight they gain a lot of speed after exiting the S's there. The accident didn't look like a particularly nasty hit, but those cars, the way they're built, that fuel filler is right on the back there, and the way he hit and spun around backwards caused the fuel to just explode out of the back of the car, being ignited by the headers there. Very, very fortunate that he wasn't shook up more. The contact there, the direction of the hit, and the way those cars are built and the safety equipment in them allowed him to retain enough of his senses to get out of that car quickly. He's very fortunate, and you did an outstanding job of covering that there, Joe.
Well, thanks, Steve. And one thing to note, that is not like a NASCAR full-bodied car like where he's expected or anticipated racing week in, week out as he does in NASCAR Nextel Cup. So not quite all the safety features that we'd probably come to expect. But when we got this clip, I want to thank the guys over DMP, Dan Denaire, One for One, for getting us this clip and all the footage that went along with it. You know, Steve, one thing we talked about then is it didn't look like it was that bad, but with all that fire engulfing him, had he been dazed where he could not react to the flames, definitely could have been a fatal crash for Dale Earnhardt Jr., so we're glad to see him. But he's back at it. He's already back at home, already looking forward to next week's race, and that shows the true spirit. And speaking of spirit of racing, Steve Valdez, our man out in our West Coast studios, has a great piece all about the spirit of sim racing. So let's kick over back to Steve Valdez and the spirit of sim racing.
Thanks, guys. Steve Valdez here from SRN's West Coast studio to bring you a story today about the true spirit of racing. I'd like to introduce to you a gentleman by the name of Al Dannon, a fine race car driver and a longtime member of Real Racing Online, the RROL. Al came to the RROL several years ago. He was a stock car racer in the Northeast, raced with the Schraders and the Bodines on the short tracks in the Northeast portion of the country. his wife developed a brain tumor that forced him to stay at home to take care of his wife, and he turned to sim racing to satisfy his racing needs. He came to the RROL and immediately took up a strong relationship with the other drivers in the series. He raced for many months and then suddenly started having problems. He started getting into accidents. He started having problems making some of the races, and nobody really quite knew why. The administrators at Real Racing Online, trying to protect the other drivers in the series, had to move him down into the sportsman division. This driver never complained, never once made excuses. He moved down to the sportsman division. He made every practice race, and he made every race, and eventually was able to work himself back up into the pro racing series, where after a short period of time, he once again started developing problems on the track. It came to be known to the staff at Real Racing Online that his wife was indeed dying. He had mounting medical bills and multiple problems that you can well imagine would arise from such a situation. Al then, at that point, took a short hiatus from Real Racing Online to take care of his wife and to bury her. When Al came back to Real Racing Online, he again once again took up his dominant position in the sportsman division, where he had to restart again, and was able to compete fairly well. After a short period of time, again, problems began to arise. Again, never saying anything, never complaining, never once using any excuses. He started missing a lot of races, and eventually the staff at Real Racing Online was contacted. Al had developed cancer himself. He had to go into the hospital and have part of a lung removed. He kept in constant contact with Real Racing Online, and he did everything he could to keep up what was going on in the Real Racing Online series. After partially recovering, the nurses were very adamant about the fact that he was racing when he was not supposed to be racing, and we had to make it clear to him that he needed to fully recover or he would not be allowed to race. The drive to compete, the drive to have that camaraderie within the series was so great that even though Al was not able to speak, having to take oxygen through a trach tube and be on intravenous fluids all the time, made the nurses bring the computer to his bedside where he would attempt to race. Not often would he finish an entire race, but you couldn't keep him from starting the race. This gentleman typifies the true spirit of racing. He came back to Real Racing Online knowing full well he was not going to be able to win races. In fact, he knew full well that he was not going to be able to complete a lot of the races. As time progressed and Al got a little better, the full story of his sickness came forth. Al had to go in and have a portion of his lung removed, to which the Real Racing Online series responded by holding a charity race and raising money to help pay for some of his medical bills. Real Racing Online, when Al came back, also found out that Al, against his doctor's wishes, began racing far before he was supposed to, and he did have a relapse. He did have 11 strokes, in fact. 11 strokes in his recovery process, which put him back into the hospital and again took him away from his friends and comrades at Real Racing Online. When he finally recovered, he came back to Real Racing Online and just came in and watched a few races until he was strong enough to drive. Personal conversations between the administration at Real Racing Online and his nursing staff illuminated the fact that Al was having to use a walker, only had the use of one arm, and again was on oxygen through a tracheotomy tube with intravenous fluids the entire time he was racing. Eventually, as he became stronger, Al was able to regain his voice. The tracheotomy tube was removed. He was taken off oxygen. He partially regained use of his other hand that he lost the use of through the strokes. And we enjoyed many months of racing with Al, an indomitable spirit, again, who never complained, who when he caused an accident and was issued wrecking points, never fought the issue, understood full well what the racing was all about, and just all in all tried to enjoy the experience. The sad news that I have to bring you now is that Al, once again, has cancer now in the other lung. Contact from his nurse, the prognosis is not good. We here at SRN, the members of Real Racing Online, and indeed the entire sim community, offer you our prayers, Al. Please get better, do what the doctor says, and with any luck, with God's help, you'll come back, and once again you'll be able to race with us. We look forward to it. Racing is a true fellowship, and a fellowship that through Al's help I've come to know and understand much, much better, and truly appreciate that, Al. God bless you, Al, and get better. Back to you guys in the studio.
And definitely the true spirit of racing right there. A heartfelt story by Steve Valdez there regarding Al Dannon. And Steve, you got any late-breaking information there on Al's current condition?
I do have messages into his nursing staff, and so far I've not received anything back. But certainly in the future, as soon as I know, I'll make everybody out there aware of it. Truly a special gentleman and a joy to know. This guy, I just can't tell you how much a driver like this means to anybody who owns or operates any racing series or league out there. You guys know that if you have drivers like this, they're not a dime a dozen. Very few people have the dedication to a series or to actual racing that a person like Joe does. I'll let everybody know it just as soon as I do know. But now for some league news with Joe Baugh.
Thank you, Stephen. Very touching story. Just one of the many. And in the DMP semi-pro division, it was Bobby Bryant coming away with his first ever win in the DMP. Bobby Bryant finishing first. John Gorlinski finished the second. Tim Wiles third. Brian Hitz fourth. And Sean Wilder rounds out the top five in the semi-pro last Thursday night. On Tuesday night, it was the Pro Series drivers taken to Talladega Super Speedway Series, and it was the Pro Division's one and only TJ Majors that comes away with the win at Talladega. Following TJ across the line, it would have been Kevin King. Everybody knows Kevin King. He finished his second. James Bowser Jr. finished his third. Chris Shearburn, no stranger to SS Racing, finishes fourth. And Harrison Donovan rounds out the top five. And since then, Scott, since we've gone to air, they ran last night, to be exact, Phoenix International Raceway, where Chris Shearburn, the SS familiar driver, comes away with a win at a flat track, followed by the number 2 of John Gorlinski. TJ Majors gets third last night, Harrison Donovan fourth, and the fifth place finisher, the number 5 of Roger Voss. That's how they stacked up at the DMP. And we will have more on the DMP throughout this show and throughout our series here at the Inside Sim Racing. Right now, I'm going to kick it over to Scott Fairman. He's got some updates on the East Coast Thunder League. Guys and gals, we encourage you to get your league, your race results into us here at Inside Sim Racing. We'll do all we can to get them all brought to the air right here on Inside Sim Racing. Scott?
And thanks a lot, Joe. East Coast Thunder. And we're going to look at, right now, Hobo. Currently the domination going on over there at East Coast Thunder in the Cup Division. Hobo currently resides at the top spot after 9 events held this season. 5 wins and 8 top 5s have helped to stretch his point lead over second-place driver Ayrton Perry to 204 points, as you see there. I apologize for the technical difficulties there with our video and audio feeds, but we were moving on to the Open Truck Series there for the East Coast Thunder Series, and the Bama Hobo also leading the Truck Series by 154 points with 2 wins and 7 top 5s out of 9 races this season. League admin Pete Sendone holds on to a second spot right now, consistent finishes each week. And MASH is closing from the third position with 1 win and 4 top 5s, but he's only raced in 7 races this season, so he hasn't had an opportunity to gain as many points as the others. In other East Coast Thunder League news, League Administrator Pete Sindone is currently planning a SRNtv broadcast, the edition, the second Halloween 500. This event is still in the developmental stages, and we'll keep you up to date here on Inside Sim Racing as to the dates and times of that great event.
In the turn number 3 and 4, but he's still about 2 car lengths away from the back bumper of that blue. I would explore it. I'm going to take you there right now. Okay, that's a safety fine. I was going around. I mean, y'all really seriously want me to stay out of here, or y'all want to think?
We interrupt your regular broadcast to bring you this important news bulletin.
And might I add that Dale Earnhardt Jr. only relies on the SRN race servers to host his DMP races on, so let that be known to the sim community. If you want to be like Dale Jr., you just get at least one of those SRN race servers. If they're good enough for him, they're good enough for anybody. Anybody that won a Daytona 500's got my vote. But yeah, definitely a great sim racer. Raced with him at a like real land race, back in I think 2000 it was, or 1999. Got to speak with and meet Dale Jr. for about 5 or 10 minutes, and he came in, ran a couple races with us. And everybody really enjoyed his company, and super nice guy. He's just one of the guys. And I guess that's why everybody likes him so much, is because he is down to earth, just like his dad was. He's a part of the crowd, part of the people. He's one of us. That's Dale Jr. Glad to see that he escaped that fiery crash.
Yeah, and a special segment brought in by Steve Valdez, too. A very touching segment, Spirit of Racing, that we brought in right after the Dale Earnhardt Jr. piece from our West Coast studios out there in Mariposa, California. So let's waste no more. Let's kick it right over to Steve in our West Coast studios. As Steve's got some updates, some more league rundowns, as Steve Valdez is going to provide us with one right now. Steve?
Thank you, Joe. I want to cover the Real Racing Online series here. Halfway through the Real Racing Online Pro Cup series, we have Sean Adams bouncing back after a disappointing midseason to take a points lead with 2,791 points. Tom Curtin is coming on strong and pulling into second place with 2,630 points, 161 points behind Sean Adams. Tom Curtin's son, Lee Curtin, falling out of first place with a disastrous races in the last couple of races. It's going to be a very interesting season for those Pro Cup drivers. They're really looking forward to the second half of the season. Let's go on now to Scott with some Oz-Team racing.
And thank you very much. You know what? We talk about coast to coast like butter on toast. We are coast to coast. Steve, West Coast, me, East Coast, Joe right in between. So, Joe, I guess you're the meat in the sandwich. But talking about heading across the land, let's head across the world, and let's head to the land down under. The Oz-Team Racing Series run by Gavin Chat, good friends with the SRN crew, and the Cup Series down there has concluded their spring season, and congratulations goes out to Jason Martin as he's crowned the champion after winning by 36 points. And now look, Richard Foster came in second, but Richard was leading going into the last race. So I tell you what, Jason Martin surpassed Richard in the last race to take the championship by 36 points, and Richard Foster comes in second, as I said, and then you go 76 points back to Daz Morgan. He rounds out the top three there in the Cup Series for Oz-Team Racing. They also have a Busch Series down there, and Troy Johnson won the championship there by 19 points over second-place driver Cameron Birch. Andy Nelson closes out the season in third place, only 33 points back, so the Busch Series was really close. Came down to the wire, came down to the last race in that series as well to determine the champion. The Trans Am Series runs with the OS Team Group. Now, this is one of the few leagues out there that has a Trans Am Series. They've run 4 races so far, and A.J. Nelson currently sits atop the points there with 695 points to his credit. A.J. has placed in the top 5 in all 3 races, Joe Baugh, so that tells you how dominant that driver is in that Trans Am style racing. He has a win to his credit as well. Rod Savage is only 5 points back, though, and he's got 3 wins and 3 poles. So Rod, he's been stout. Only 1 race as he slipped up, and that's been enough to delegate him to second in points. Greg Coughlin resides in third with 1 win and 3 top 5 so far. 45 drivers have turned laps in the Trans Am Series, which is quite impressive for a startup division. But with OS Team's racing reputation as a quality sanctioning body, I'm not surprised to see that. Let's kick it back to you, Joe Baugh.
Well, thanks, Scott, and we want to say a special hello to guys down under, Gavin and all the boys, Scott, and I believe, if I remember right, they have one of those 1,500 laps Le Mans races or something that they do yearly as well, but to hear from the guys from down under as well.
That's the ATR 1000, Joe, and it's an insane race and has driver changes throughout the event, so very difficult to pull off. But as a spectator and as a driver, it's a lot of fun. And maybe one day you'll see some of that live action here on SRNtv, but until then, you'll just have to read about it from OSTeamRacing.com. Get on over there and check it out.
Yeah, and a lot of fun talking with them guys. We even got to talk with their wives, their girlfriends, and it was just a lot of fun the way they pronounce words and we do, and they were laughing at us, we're laughing at them. Always a good time when we go down under and be involved with the OS Team Racing. But right now, Scott, my league for this segment of the show is going to be over there at OnlineRacing.com. Something old, something new. Something old is the Super Speedway Series. Something new, they've added this Super Cup SS Series over there, and it was brought about by none other than our old colleague right here at SRN, Rod Flag Primo Speed. But in the very first shootout, the very first Super Cup championship went to none other than Ron Ketterer, PA racer. Scott, we've seen Ron Ketterer forever racing in these Super Speedway Series. He shows us why we've seen him forever. He comes away with the first championship, followed by D. White. Rod Flag comes in third, Ron Laverne fourth, and Rob 10, Saber Tiger, and Billy NASCAR. Saber Tiger, of course, Alfred Lessie from them guys over there at XFM, some more buddies of ours from Extreme Force Motorsports. That was in the first week. Last Friday night on July 16th, guess who comes away with the win, Scott? You will not believe this.
I'm trembling in my boots with anticipation, Joe. Drum roll, please.
I know you are. I know you are. And do we have a drum roll over there? Maybe Steve can throw us one from the West Coast Studios. It was Rod Flag, of course. Rod Flag brought this series back to his feet. Rod Flag comes away with the second ever championship. And guess what, Scott? We just happen to have Rod Flag right here in our talk about the new series at OnlineRacing.com, the new Super Cup Series, and his win in week number 2. Rod Flag, welcome to Inside Sim Racing.
Hi, Joe. Hey, Scott. It's nice being here. Glad to see Inside Sim Racing on the air, and I'm just happy to be able to talk with you guys tonight.
Well, Rod, I know you're happy as we are about the new Inside Sim Racing video magazine that's going to be aired bi-monthly here at SRN, but I know you're probably more happy about coming away with another championship in the SS Series.
Yeah, well, the SS Series is it's tough before, but I went and made it even tougher by starting the Super Cup Series, and you got just about 30 of the best super speedway drivers on the internet coming together to race every Friday night, and it's tough. You got some 3 and 4 wide action going on, and when you're that stressed out in a pack like that, it's hard to get through. It seems like you just got to pick the right line to go, and if you're stuck behind a line that's not going, you're going to find yourself going back to 20th place. So it's it's very competitive, and I'm proud of all the guys who are involved in it. It's a great series, and it's even better now that we've split the series up into two, and the best drivers are in the Super Cup series, and it just shows how difficult it's evolved to, and overall it's a great concept, and I'm proud to be a part of it.
And Rod, there's a lot of people that's heard of the SS Series, of course, and it used to be the walk-on series at OLR, onlineracing.com. The Super Cup Series. Now, this is all past champions, and most of these guys I know all have multiple championships in this one in particular series. Tell us just some of the names that are out there and the numbers of championships combined that are in this Super Cup Series on Friday night.
Well, you got a ton of guys here. I mean, you got Ron L53, Ron Laverne, you got Charles Sylvia, you got King Lothar, Jeff King, you got Widowmaker, you got Josh Skarupa. I mean, you got Sports Ref 2, Brian Bell. I mean, Abo 28. We were able to pull in the multiple 12, 13, 14-time whatever champion of the Super Speedway Series, and now he is back running regularly every single week, and he is back in part of the Super Cup Series as a request by the Super Speedway Committee's part to get him back, because he was such an important part of building this series into what it is today. And so these guys have come so far. They all deserve to race there, and I'm proud to see those names every week and come racing with them.
Well, to get Aaron Camp, Abo 28, the most prolific super speedway driver that onlineracing.com has ever seen, to get him back on a regular basis, Rod, now you've really built something spectacular. And it's good to see him back. I know other guys like John Forgio and Brian Bell, you already mentioned, the Voiles, the father and son tandem of Lynn and Brian Voiles being involved as well. You've got a new committee to represent what is still the Super Speedway Series. I believe Jeff King took over that. Am I correct? He is kind of running the Super Speedway Series throughout the week. It's still a walk-on type event over at onlineracing.com.
Yeah, Jeff's taken over it's now called the Super Speedway Challenge Series, and it's evolved with the Super Cup itself, and they race on Wednesday and Thursday nights. I was actually rushing over here to get ready for the getting the SRN booth here, because they're having their qualifying event right before I had to come over here. So they're racing on Wednesday and Thursdays. It's 4 races, 2 nights of qualifying, and they have their own main event on Thursday nights where the top 3 from the main Challenge Series transfer into Super Cup every week. So we give that chance for guys to make a name for himself and prove that they're worthy enough to come race with the best super speedway drivers on the internet.
Rod, well, that sounds like a lot of fun, and congratulations on your win on the new series. It sounds like a ton of fun. If I can just find my way out from behind these studio walls, hopefully I can come over there and compete with some of you guys. But I do know that we'll be airing a few of those on our sister broadcast company, OLR TV.
Yep, we're on OLR TV, not this week, but next week we'll be live and on the air, and that's where I know the Super Cup drivers really get pumped up to be on TV, and they do extra hard and they try extra hard to go and race their best, and usually tempers flare, so you won't want to miss that. But we're handing out these Super Cups like like they're nothing, but they mean a lot to me. I know they mean a lot, especially to PA Racer, who is such a talented guy, and you talk to him for 5 minutes and you'll understand. But it's great to add my name to the elite list, and seeing that others are going to add their names too. So we'll keep this thing running, and it's great to have SRN helping us and bring this along, and I'm just proud that we're able to represent ourselves.
Rod, hey, Scott Fairman here, a long time no speak. Just wanted to ask real quickly, how many ounces does that Super Cup hold? Because Joe Baugh will need to put that 12-pack of Anheuser-Busch's Best in there.
Well, from personal experience, I know it can hold a nice. It can hold a pretty good amount of the alcohol of your choosing, but we won't get into that. That's to be seen from when I get the Super Cup, or if I get it. We all know the Super Cup or the Super Speedway race cakes that never were. So as soon as I get one, I'll let you know.
I'll tell you what, Rod. I'm one of those guys that are still looking for my first ever race cakes championship. I got the championship. I never got my race cakes, so I'm sure that cup will hold at least 2 or 3 of those race cakes. Meaning, Scott, that'll hold plenty of Anheuser-Busch's best, which is, to me, Busch Light. But, Rod, good to have you here on our first ever Inside Sim Racing. We look forward to talking to you each time we broadcast, so you bring us more updates from OnlineRacing.com's premier series, the Super Cup, Super Speedway Series. Rod, congratulations to you, and make sure Ron Ketterer knows that we said congratulations to him as well and all the guys at XFM, Extreme Force Motorsports.
Yeah, I had a chance to talk with Ron, and he's proud, and he was very flattered at the invitation to be here tonight. But next week or in 2 weeks, excuse me, we'll have the 2 previous winners, and we'll bring them on here. If it's not me, then you won't be hearing my voice, but you'll be hearing their voice, because they're the voice of the SS Series, and those drivers are what keeps it running. So we'll make sure that the 2 winners are here.
All right, Rod. Well, that is Rod Flagg, Primo Speed, a one-time broadcaster here at SRN, and now a Super Cup champion in week number 2, and the guy that kind of rejuvenated the series, Scott. And Scott, that series for both of us, we go way back with that. I mean, one of the best broadcasts I ever heard obviously has you in it, and I know I throw that little sound bite in almost every production I ever put together with I Need a Nerve Pill and the Top Row Joe thing. So want to thank Rod Flagg. But, Scott, that's pretty much wraps it up from OnlineRacing.com and the Super Cup Series.
Yeah, it does. And this SS Series, yeah, like you said, Joe, pretty wild action to call there. It happened so fast, so furious. You got I think a 20-lap race. You got a 15-lap race, and I think one of them was like an 8-lap race or a 10-lap shootout. And action heated up real quick there, and a lot of nerve pills taken during that deal.
Yeah, like I said, that's still one of the greatest broadcasts I ever heard was you and Matt calling that when I was running 3 wide, and that was on the old track. Well, now thanks to Brian Ring. And speaking of Brian Ring and the new tracks, that's one of the segments we are going to have right here on Inside Sim Racing starting our next broadcast, our next show in 2 weeks. It will be Chris Haskins, our very own Dr. Lips, going to be talking about Sandbox and the troubles and the pros and cons of using Sandbox and making add-on tracks. So it's a segment that we look forward to right here on Inside Sim Racing, starting with our very next show. Dr. Lips going to be having the Sandbox trials and trivials. But right now, I believe Scott has something from the American Armed Forces Tribute 250, special little segment we have here, talking about one of the special events that we got to cover right here on Inside Sim Racing. Scott?
Taking a look at the American Armed Forces 250 run this past weekend at Talladega. This charity event raises money for the Survivors of Servicemen Fund, and this year's event raised nearly $700. The event started off with Richard Dane on the pole in his number 3 Teams Marine Chevrolet Monte Carlo. Cars were immediately 2 and sometimes 3 wide all over the track. As you can see here, they did get a little too close when the 33 car turned the 25 of Cisco Kid, sending him for a ride. The action on pit road was just as close as the action on the track, as you see here when the 69 car almost hits one of the 15 car's crew members as he made his way into his pit stall. The 32 and the 81 get tangled up later on in the race, involving the 6 of Vinny C as well. Amazingly enough, all 3 drivers continue on to finish in the top 10. Richard Dane came away with the victory and the $100 purse after leading the most laps with 33 and sitting on the pole. Maniac 15 came home second after escaping this incident with the 70 car in the closing laps. Tony C. started third and had a real good run of it, leading 25 laps and almost winning the race as he and Richard Dane raced door-to-door to the checkered flag. All in all, each driver had a great time, and they are looking forward to the next charitable event that CyberThunderRacing.net plans on hosting.
Do you desire a wheel that gives you the confidence you need to bring home the cash? Are you tired of replacing parts to keep expensive equipment running? Do you need a wheel that's, well, blows the competition out of victory lane? Well, my friend, you need to head on over to Thomas Enterprises and see why drivers such as Dale Earnhardt Jr., Ryan Newman, John Wood, and Rick Yassi are taking the competition by storm. Thomas has a full line of simulation racing wheels for every racing fanatic, backed by a lifetime warranty and a whole spectrum of goodies for every racer. Head on over to Thomas Enterprise, because if you're not using a Thomas, you're not racing.
Is super speedway racing what you like to do? Do you like the excitement of driving your truck at speeds of up to 200 miles per hour? Then maybe Tally Rally is the league for you. NTRplus.com brings all this excitement together every Tuesday through Sunday. At NTRplus.com, our goal is to provide hardcore, clean Talladega racing using NASCAR Racing 2003 season. Our league has raced well over 1,000 races over the last 4 years. We crown monthly champions and offer a top 10 IROC race at the end of each month. With our average points per race and monthly points system, racers can choose to race when they like. In Tally Rally, we strive to be the top hardcore super speedway league online. In Tally Rally, you race for prizes and real-life driving experiences from Dale Jarrett Racing Adventure. Tally Rally is the first online racing league to be sponsored on a monthly basis by a real driving experience company. So if this is what you like, then NTRplus.com has a league for you. Visit us at NTRplus.com, the home of the NTRplus.com 55500.
We are RealRacingOnline.com. If you're tired of playing games, we at Real Racing run a real racing series with thousands of dollars in prizes awarded every season, with 4 divisions of racing available for every skill level. White-knuckle, pedal-to-the-metal excitement awaits you on every track against some of online racing's best drivers. With regular broadcasts on the Sim Racing Network, your friends and neighbors can tune in and listen as you race door handle to door handle at 180 miles an hour in some of the most exciting races on the internet. Remember, at Real Racing Online, we don't play games, we race.
Inside Sim Racing is brought to you in part by AffordableTrophies.com, the leader in fantasy sports awards, PitPassDiecast.com, customized racing collectibles and hard-to-find items, SRN Race Servers, the most dependable, most stable, and most reliable race servers on the planet. And by RaceSimCentral.com, web hosting solutions, forums, news, and a whole lot more. Communications provided by Teamspeak.org, the Team Play communications engine. This is an SRN TV production.
Welcome back to our final segment here at Inside Sim Racing. We're going to go right into our final slots of the leagues around the horn. We're going to kick it right over to Scott Fairman in our Charlotte, North Carolina studio. Scott?
And I appreciate it there, Joe. And, we've covered a lot of league news up till now, and would like to cover more if time permitted. But, we cover everything that we can. We still ask everyone out there, we implore with you to send us your league stats, league results, any pertinent news for your league, team. Even if you're a one-man operation, get that news in here to us, and we'll get it out to our viewing audience. But the Real Racing Online Sportsman Showcase that was held last night on SRN, a great event that we watched last night. And Steve Valdez, nobody better to go over some of the Real Racing Online than yourself, considering you're the league admin.
Absolutely. The Sportsman Division is the feeder series, much like the Busch Series is to the Nextel Cup Series in NASCAR, to the Coca-Cola Enterprises Pro Cup Series. They ordinarily would run on Saturday practice and a Sunday race, but this week they ran a Sportsman Showcase. So far, for the first half of the season, they got a really tight points race there, only 25 points separating first through third. Billy Newton leading with 2,708 points, followed by Roger Gillespie with 6,695 points, just 13 points back. Eric Hills in third with 2,683 points, 25 points out of first. Those standings were really shaken up by at least 4 drivers having moved up from the Sportsman Series up into the Coca-Cola Enterprises Pro Cup Series. The Sportsman Showcase race is a race that we run 5 or 6 times during the year when we have the Cup Series off for the week, and it's kind of a bonus for those guys. Some of the guys have an opportunity every week to qualify into that Pro Cup Series, and some guys never make it into the Pro Cup Series to get on SRNtv and those wonderful broadcasts that we have on Tuesday nights. The Sportsman Showcase we had last night was a humdinger at one of my least favorite tracks, New Hampshire, a very flat, long straightaway, tight-cornered oval there. Very interesting race. How did you see that race last night, Scott?
I watched it from the perch of the production booth when I wasn't down there beating the crap out of the streaming server with a baseball bat trying to keep it running. But it was an exciting race when the green flag was out. Steve, some notable drivers up front that didn't stay up there long. One of those drivers was David Sims. He'd be up front, and then something would happen. He'd have to check out. The car would get loose and go all the way to the back. He'd have to make his way back to the front. Dave Matson, another one of those drivers that we used to seeing up front, got snake bit again. He ends up leaving that event prematurely, but and I think, I don't even know if he made the starting grid. His weekend went so bad, Steve, but we did get to see his teammate, Steel Horse Racing, Todd Kelly, come home with the victory. Did a masterful job of holding off the 57 of Neil Surgeon. Those two drivers battled nose to tail all the way in the closing, I'd say, 20 laps, as we had about a 35-lap run there to close the race out. And it was Todd Kelly, Neil Surgeon, and David Sims. And at one time, it was also Tim Pronto. All 4 of those drivers battling nose to tail. But when it came down to the finish there, it was the 3 drivers, Todd Kelly, the 57 of Neil Surgeon, and David Sims. And Joe Ball, I tell you what, you were on hand for that event. It was a great finish.
Yeah, and at one time we saw that 69 with the multiple sponsors on it. Steve Valdez was also up there in the top 5 throughout parts of that race, but got to hand it to number 2 of David Sims. We saw him on a few of the pro races on Tuesday nights that we air here at SRNtv, the Real Racing Online Pro Division. We saw him on there, and he always seemed to gamble, take a lot of chances, and it always come back to bite him. Last night he did exactly what you said, Scott. He got mired back in the field a couple times, worked his way methodically through the pack, did an outstanding job getting up to the front. Also had a new host to the show last night. Tried out a new host with Ricky Harden coming on board, coming from the pits up into the broadcast booth, and tried to put his hand at hosting the show. So a lot of first times there last night. As far as Dave Matson, we talked with him a little bit throughout the race. He was down in the garage areas. I believe it was Matt Weiss and Bart Boylan and Jeff Smith down there. They were watching a movie while watching the race live. So that's how you got Dave Matson mixed in there. But they were all on hand to cheer their teammate from Steel Horse Racing, Todd Kelly, to victory last night. Pretty good race, good race for the Zero car of Todd Kelly. He too had to fight his way through the field numerous times, trying to manipulate the traffic and the flat track, as well as they say it's a 12-degree banking, but our man, Dr. Lips, says it's only 7 degrees, and I want to reiterate that our new segment to the show, starting our next broadcast, Dr. Lips, Chris Haskins will be talking about add-on tracks and whatnot, the bankings, the AI cars. I believe it would be his first installment, talking about how hard it is just to get the AI cars to understand a new track. You think it's hard for a new driver to learn a track. It's even harder to get the AI cars, which you would think would be automatic, but it isn't. But Steve, I know you're real proud of this series, a professional series. We tried to stress that last night. And these guys, even though with their ups and downs, even in the semi-pros, the sportsman division class, they put on a professional race as the best of their ability will allow.
Absolutely, and the first 3 drivers you were talking about, Todd Kelly, David Sims, and Tim Peranto, they led the majority of the laps. Todd Kelly led 45. Neil Surgeon, David Sims, he led 48 laps, and Tim Peranto, he led 38 laps. David Sims, rough season, yes.
Steve, I was just going to say we renamed David Sims to David Spins.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why you saw him down there in that sportsman division, was that there's a wrecking point system, kind of a combination budget and accountability system, that the way you would have to account for causing accidents to your sponsors and to your race crew and to your body fabricators, and everybody else has to work to put those cars back together, not to mention the people who carry the litters off the track at the end of a particularly massive accident. The wrecking point system takes that into account. And David just ran out of budget, ended up having to go back down into the sportsman division, and I got to give the man credit, though. He went down there. He didn't grouse about it. He went back to work. He's put up some outstanding races since then. He does take some what I consider unusual risks, coming out on old tires, running too long on old tires, but that's something that he's really working on. His patience has improved a great deal. Has just done an outstanding job, and he's well on his way to working himself back up into that pro division. Tim Peranto, on the other hand, is the pro driver, yes?
Yeah, and Steve, we commented about that last night. Last night he did everything in sequence with everybody else, and he still had that got the track position. He took 4 tires when everybody else did, and still was beating guys off the line and maintaining that front spot. So a lot of kudos to the number 2 car of Dave Sims.
Absolutely working hard, and it's a little demoralizing being put down in a series. I'm sure a lot of the Nextel Cup drivers that have gone back to Busch can sympathize with that entirely. And I'm sure almost everybody here has had that problem where you've struggled track after track and you look like you're going to lose your ride. And David Sims really responded. His attitude is outstanding. He's working really hard. He's being extra cautious. Still a little loose on the track, but extremely fast. Doesn't belong really in the Sportsman Series, other than he ran out of budget. And so it's really good to see him working his way back up.
Yeah, Steve, and just more kudos to the series that you put together there. Them guys really take it professionally. With the wrecking points that you administer, they always seem to handle it and respond positively, unlike you see a lot of series on sim racing. But definitely these guys take everything right to heart and really try to be as professional as possible. But also, Scott, you've got a few special LAN events that we're going to talk about before we close out tonight's broadcast. Let's get into that, the special events and the LAN events. One special event we have coming right here on SRNtv. Dr. Lips is in charge of that as well, the Viva Las Vegas. We've got that. Still sign-ups, I believe, are open for the next installment, which I believe is going to be at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Maybe we'll get Chris Haskins in here to talk about that right after Scott talks about the LAN events that we're going to be covering here at SRNtv.
And thank you very much, Joe. And first off, land racing is one of the best ways for sim racers and fans to get together for a day or a weekend of great fun and great racing. The cliche regarding how an online racer might actually show more respect or ability if he or she was in the same room as the person that he may be racing against is never more prevalent than at a land event. Racers learn in a different side of their competitors. They learn about their friends that they know, and they get to meet them in person. It's just a completely different atmosphere. You tend to forget about bad blood when you're sitting next to a guy that's 6'7", 280, and relaxing between races, having lunch or dinner, or a after-race smoke with your longtime rival, Smokey Joe Baugh, or the sum thereof. We see this at every land event we attend. I'm glad to say this form of sim racing brings togetherness. It brings drivers. It increases morale, and it's just good for the sport. And we're happy to help promote it in any way we can. So I'll move on to that, and I'll quit boring you with my insight on land racing. And if you want to attend a land event for the first time, I highly suggest you do so. And here's the scoop on 2 upcoming land events. The Richmond Land Racing event will be held August the 6th through the 8th, 2004 in Richmond, Virginia. Richmond Land Racing was started by Kyle Kraus and Jamie Blackman. Joe Ball, you know both of them from OLR.
Yeah, and Scott, I got to meet both them guys as well as yourself at a land event. Funny that would all tie together, huh?
Exactly. There you go. Note the taking a cigarette break. Of course, I've quit smoking since then, and unfortunately, Joe hasn't. Both of whom, Kyle Kraus and Jamie Blackman, both of whom have been active in the sim racing community for many years, and they're well noted, of course, we've mentioned, at onlineracing.com. There'll be great prizes, great fun at that land. Okay, you want the website address? I'll give it to you. It's http://www.richmondlandracing. That's Richmond, like the city. If you need spelling, open up your NASCAR 2003 sim and look at Richmond. LAN, L-A-N, racingwiththeg.com to find out more about that great event. Or go to simracingnetwork.com. You already know where that's at. And click on the link that we already have there on our front page. Also coming up August the 13th through the 15th, the Grassroots Racing Land being held in Lexington, South Carolina. All the land events seem to be happening on the East Coast and in the Southeast to get specific. Grassroots has been hosting land events in the past, and they really know how to cater to the sim racer. And what I mean by cater is they got free drinks and food. I'm talking the slow-cooked Southern-style barbecue, Joe, and you know all about that.
Yeah, and Scott, one other special delight, talking about the Grassroots Racing Land. Some guys from SRN, they just pop in and do a broadcast.
And we'll get to that here later in the story. I'm just kidding. Cash prizes are awarded to the top drivers. Get to meet and greet your fellow racers from all over the country. Last land event I went to there with Matt Racing Kid Thomas, Mark Jones, Ivan, Raceman 72 Garcia. That's a name. If anyone's been sim racing, they know who Raceman 72 is. He was down there for that land event. And you mentioned the SRNtv crew. Well, you doggone right, because SRNtv plans to broadcast live from the Grassroots Racing Land in Lexington, South Carolina on Saturday, August the 14th. Timing isn't quite sure. You have to check back with us and see when we go on live. But we will go on live from that land event, and looking forward to that. Giving away free T-shirts and stuff, Joe. We're just going to have a good time down there.
And all I want to say is bring your own cigarettes, because I cannot stack enough for me, so you got to bring your own cigarettes.
You sit down in the production booth, Steve Valdez, and you get in Joe's seat, and you think that you're working behind the Quickie Mart. It's like cartons
enough
of
of the land.
cigarettes left and right. Hey, wait, let me give them the website address there, Joe. It's grassrootsracing.com, no G, grassrootsracing.com, and get on over there, read up on it, get signed up. It's a minimal fee to join. The barbecue alone is worth the price of admission.
Well, I tell you what, Scott, thanks for all those kudos about my smoking habit. I have been trying to down, so I'm down to about 2 packs a day instead of 3. So I want to say, hope everybody makes it out to that. If we don't get it on a live broadcast. We will definitely be recording some parts of that event, and we will air it here on SRNtv shortly thereafter that event. So if you want to be on SRNtv in full glory, full lights, and all the smoke and bells, well, get on down to the Grassroots Racing LAN event, as Scott has just talked about. Any other LAN events we got coming up here, Scott?
Unless David McCall with Like Real Racing's planning one. I don't know of any. Now, there is a LAN event that takes place in Toledo, Ohio. I think that's TSR, if I'm not mistaken, tsrracing.com. It might be. Do a search on TSR and figure out which one's a sim racing community. But I believe the Toledo LAN runs once a month. I don't know the date. I tried to get in touch with them for that information, was unsuccessful. We'll bring it to you in the next show, 2 weeks from now, more information on the Toledo LAN. So the people up in the Midwest and parts of the Northeast and upper Atlantic coast can get to that LAN. A lot of fun there.
All right, Scott, well, before we wrap this segment up, I do have Chris Haskins here. He's going to tell us a little bit about a special event right here on SRNtv, the Viva Las Vegas 400 or 250 or something like that. And also we got one coming up where the sign-ups are just starting for our Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Chris Haskins, welcome to the show. And I know you've been busy racing right now, but tell us about our special events that we got coming up right here at SRN.
Well, Joe, this coming Sunday night, I believe it's the 26th, we're going to run the twin races for the Las Vegas 400, which will be August 1st. But this Sunday, we're going to run probably two 25 or 30% races for the drivers that we have. We have 35 drivers, a very good field, a very competitive field. It's going to be some great racing. Basically, just to get them on TV for the first time. A lot of them, it'll be the first time they've been on SRN TV. Get them some time with their setups on the track, with the drivers that they'll be racing with, and that'll be probably two 30% races, and then August 1st, a big race, 400 miles at Las Vegas with a CTS mod developed by Project Wildfire. So it's going to be a long race with the trucks, and going to be a lot of strategy taking place there, hopefully. A lot of green flag racing and a lot of side-by-side racing. That'll also be on SRN-TV August 1st. I believe it starts at 7 or 8 o'clock. Check the schedule for the times and all that good stuff. And then, as you said, we just started sign-ups this weekend for the SRN Brickyard 300. It's going to be 300 miles at the Brickyard, Joe Bond. It's going to use the Cup cars. So it's going to be a little bit different than a lot of the special events you've been seeing around. A lot of the special events use the trucks and they're at super speedways. This is going to be at Indianapolis, relatively flat track, 2.5 miles long. But relatively flat, and it's going to use the Cup cars, so that's going to be very interesting. Sign-ups just started. They're going to continue through, I believe, about August, the middle of August, and then the race is going to be September 12th, the final 300-mile race at the Brickyard. It's going to be August 12th. That's going to be on SRN-TV, as well as the Twins the Sunday before that, twin 200-mile races. So a lot going on there as far as special events and the Sim Racing Network, and hopefully we can do even one more past that before we really get into the special event season. Of course, once you get in the winter, then you have the TSW 500 and the TVR 500 and the FLM 400, which will use the trucks. I believe it's going to be at California again. So once you hit winter, you're really in the special event season. We won't want to step on any of their toes, but we're going to run these special events right up until all those start going on.
All right, Chris, and it's no doubt that you're in charge of all this because both them tracks you mentioned, both of them are pretty, to what I consider, flat tracks and nowhere near a super speedway series, with the exception maybe Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But I do believe I am eligible, since I'm not on the officiating crew, that possibly I can even join that the Indianapolis series race and try my hand at the flat tracks as well.
Well, we really don't allow wreckers, though, Joe.
Yeah, plus you gotta be 48 inches tall, Jim.
Okay. Well, I got cigarettes that are that big. But thanks, Chris Haskins, for taking your time out here, and we look forward to your segment next show when you talk about the add-on tracks, the difficulties, and the pros and cons of Sandbox. So that's Chris Haskins, Dr. Lips, or anybody don't know. But, Scott, I believe you have one more special little thing that we're going to play here about the Boston Red Sox owner or something that you have picked up, some more late-breaking news.
I guess this was late breaking if you were in a coma for 2 weeks, and I'm sure most people know about it, but just in case you don't, I just want to touch on the fact that the sim lives, and what I mean by that is the man that, well, Papyrus co-founder Dave Kamer, the guy that helped develop the physics in the sim, NASCAR racing, also believe he played a part in IndyCar racing as well. I'm not for sure on that, so don't hold me to that, but definitely designed the sim that most of us race today. Excuse me, and he teamed with Boston Red Sox owner, so he's got some heavy hitters in his corner. John W. Henry in late May to buy back all of Papyrus's critical source code, and that I'm talking about the graphics, the physics, the multi-user, all the stuff that was in the sim, which now was owned by VU Games. But this is significant and is a great deal. It would ensure an uninterrupted flow of the high-end driving sims from the Massachusetts-based developer for years to come. So what we're getting at here is it all comes down to trademarks and licenses and all of that. But the sim is a great sim, and there's been a lot of add-ons to it, as we've seen with Project Wildfire and what we were just discussing there with Dr. Lips Haskins, is that is the game was buildable, and it was a great base, and it was it's able to be advanced. Now we know that it can be advanced by the original creator, which is best for the sim community in general, because you get too many people out there adding on and changing this mod. Before you know it, there'll be so many versions out there that it won't be compatible across the board. Maybe Dave Cameron will help make sure that that is a compatibility issue from years to come.
Well,
actually,
Scott,
you know, guys, actually, guys, you know that they're. I'm sorry, Joe. Actually, guys, you know, there's been a problem with some of the mods and the way that they're loaded in to the Cup Sim, in that if you load them in the improper order, some of the cheat detection software out there that some of the leagues use will pick you up as a cheat, and the problem stems from the fact that Windows operating system uses file sharing, and if you load these mods in an improper order or in different orders, along with some of the other updates that you can put in dashboards, wheels, and other body schemes, it can change the way the files are shared and can change the physics. And in this particular instance, the reason I bring this up is last night's Sportsman Division race, there was a driver who was entered into that race, tried to get into the server, and the Real Racing Online cheat detection program that was loaded into the server actually kicked him out and told him, sent him a message that he had made illegal modifications to his game, and he had to go out and he had to remove what I believe was the Trans Am mod, which doesn't usually cause a problem unless it's loaded in before you load in the CTS and the Bush Series mod, in which case it does cause a problem generally. And so I just wanted to make you guys aware of that. When you guys load these mods in there, it can actually change the way your Cup car performs. It can make you slower on some tracks and can make you faster on others.
Okay, well, okay, I'm being told by Chris Haskins that if you go to PWF, that is Project Wildfire website, they do have a specific list in which to load all these add-ons. But thanks, Scott. A good report there from the founders or the makers of the source code, as well as Steve Valdez keeping us up to date with all the cheat detection, which is definitely one of the things that any sim league, any sim community is always leery of. But guys, right now, that pretty much wraps up our show. Coming up next week, or the next show we have in 2 weeks from tonight, you can see this in entirety tomorrow night at 10 o'clock Eastern right here on SRNtv. Without all the little breaks that we had, we will try to correct it, and you'll have a flawless show tomorrow night. Tune in tomorrow, tell all your friends, all your families, and get us all your content. We want to air your stories right here on Inside Sim Racing. But next show, I've got a I got an interview. It's going to be a segment called Riding the Fences. That's about the drivers that race real NASCAR racing as well as the sim racing. Next week, I believe I'll be talking with Martin Truex Jr., driver of the Chance 2, Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s Busch team. I'm going to be talking with that driver as well as Dan Denayer, the guy that leads up the DMP Truck Racing League, Dale Jr.'s online series. Dan Denayer providing us with some race footage as well as some neat little footage we'll have for the next show. So make sure you tune in for that. Chris Haskins, I've already said, we'll be talking about the add-on tracks and the use of Sandbox, the utility that allows you to make these add-on tracks. I believe Tommy Olson, the coach, he's going to be bringing on some little tidbits for the new drivers, the new sim racers, trying to answer some of the questions that you eventually have when you come on to a new sim. But we have one more segment we're going to play, and this is a special segment that we plan on playing each week. Only we'll be highlighting somebody else. It's called Behind the Scenes. It's going to be about drivers, people in your community, a family member, a wife, a girlfriend, somebody that keeps everything going behind your particular league or series, but somebody that really promotes the sim community as a whole. And right here, we are very proud of this guy, the guy that's going to be on our highlight here, Bobby Bryant, only 16 years old. And when I made this piece, Scott, he was telling me about trying to get his driver's license. He's in driver's ed. He's not even 16 years old, and you would be just surprised from where he came from to where he is now. Still looking to get a driver's license, but yet he keeps us all afloat right here, and he answers so many questions, Scott. I'm really proud to be part of this piece, Scott, and proud to put Bobby Bryant in the highlight.
Yeah, and apparently that conversation went real well between you because both of you were talking about getting your driver's license, just one of them trying to get it back. Let's head to Joe Ball with that update.
I was born January 6, 1988. Well, Joe, I manage all the servers that we have, about 6 of them. All the race servers. I keep track of clients through there. I'm just the general technical guy around here. If there's a problem, I fix it, and I gotta keep track of all the machines. They have great connections, and yeah, I'm doing it all with the internet. It's all Windows 2000, 2003 server, and remote administrating them. It's pretty fun job, actually. Oh yeah, it takes a bit of work to do. I had to, when the patch came out, I had to program us a control panel that since actually I sold it to 1 or 2 different server providers for use on their servers for their leagues and such. New mods come out all the time. Every day it's a new challenge. So, as I said, it's a pretty fun job. I was 14, started out over at OnlineRacing.com. I came into the broadcast over there. I think you probably remember that one. Me and Rod Flagg came over there and got to know Scott Fairman, the president of the Sim Racing Network. He went off. He started SRN for Papyrus-based leagues instead of OLR leagues. Back then, with OLR, I actually started super speedway racing like most new drivers here do, and it just seemed to click. I got really good at it. Just been getting better and better. I'm leading the points in SAFTA, the Monday series. I won the Winston and $200 over there. I won $450 last year in the Pros series. I won a train value of $300 in the super speedway race a couple of years ago. I won the DMP race tonight. TJ talked to Dale, and they bought a server from us. We're the official race server provider of the DMP. Race with Dale, TJ, Martin Truex, Dan Denayer, all those guys, Kevin King, over on the DMP servers. I'm looking forward to continuing my time here at SRN, racing all the leagues I race in. It should be a fun thing to do, you know. we had a great battle at California, and I got past him with about 7 laps to go, and it was all I could do to just keep him in back of me, and I beat him across the line fair and square. So that was a big moment in my sim racing career. And you were there, and Chris Atkins was there, Lee Scott was there, and everyone was there to join in the fun. It was a really cool day.
102 laps to go. Chevy Monte Carlo is holding on. 100 of 100. Can he hold on? Steve Sheehan is doing everything he can, grabbing the inside. He's going to grab some of that air as the 053 comes out of turn 2 down the backstretch. A half lap to go. Bobby, let's hang on in that 053. I want to see you hit it, Joe, at turn 3.
And Dr. Lipp lost his lower lip. We're going to call him half a lip because Bobby Bryant's going to pull this off. Coming out of the last 2 turns, it's a 053. Bobby Bryant on his way to being standing side on Richard County. It's going to be Bryant. Sheehan, Dean, Adam, Paul Campbell, and Bobby Bryant does it here at OLR TV.
Oh, Joe Ball, I tell you what, I'm guaranteeing he is jumping up and down. I go ahead for him, Bobby Bryant.
Let's see, roughly 90 viewers here in the OLR TV audience, 90 people who got to witness